let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Miss Mai, the New Faces president.
I'm Mr. Wong, the old Faces president, but I'm still around, vice president. Everyone knows Ms. Wendy.
And I'm Eloise.
She's been going to Castelar since kindergarten. This is year eight.
What grade are you
grade.
now?
Grade. Yeah, but it's your 8th year. And we would like to introduce the principal, Principal Lou.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing? I am so excited for all of you because we actually finished our second week of school and a lot of you are logged on, and I'm so excited that you are all persevering and trying your best to learn through our remote learning situation. And I really want to thank all of our families too for supporting your children to be online with us. So we know it's been very difficult in different ways, very stressful, but you are all trying your very best and you're persevering, and I think that is amazing. So thank you so much.
Cool, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. We know you're super busy. Principals don't get long weekends, just like teachers don't. So thank you. Wendy, do you want to give a little talk?
So thank you again, Principal Lou, for your support, and for all the teachers for sharing about this event to the students, especially Ms. Yang for having so many second graders contribute really great questions. And thank you to Ms. Mai, Tad, and Noel for the use of their Zoom account. And also, at the end, Ms. Mai will be doing a raffle where we're going to give away a couple of prizes, Susie-related prizes, for kids who ask questions. So the way you're going to ask questions is, do you see at the on your screen there's a Q&A? There's a little Q&A button, so you can ask your question there. But be sure to identify yourself. Tell us your name and your grade and your question. And Ms. Mai is going to we're going to try to answer all the questions we can at the end, but your name is going to go into the raffle hat. And that will be at the end. Okay, and thank you, Susie, for making time for us. And thank you all for attending. While we are at distance, it's more important than ever to have fun, be inspired, and be together in the best way we can. If you enjoy this talk, we're also having another one next Friday with a skateboard video, music video, and documentary filmmaker, Wing Ko. You can get that link the same way you got this one, or go to faces.org to see our events, and even donate to support our music program, since we can't do in-person events anymore. And we're going to have all that information on a screen at the end of this presentation.
Don't worry, it's not going to be super long. We'll be like 45 minutes, an hour at the most, so you're not going to be like waiting till 9 p.m. to get your name pulled. Okay, so hang in there, and we're going to make this go real fast. It's going to be really fun. It's so good to see Susie again. I've known her for almost 20 years, and to you kids, that's like a lifetime. It's like twice your lifetime.
More than lifetime.
But I felt like we were children when we met. I used to make a magazine, and we had a gallery and a store, and she was at like our second group show over on Sawtelle. And we've just stayed friends all the way through. And since then, I've seen her, the magazine ran its course, but she's like the raddest artist. Like, she's just moved on, and has this amazing web store. She's become an illustrator, kids book illustrator. She's like the champion of indie artists. And I'm really glad she's here. And when we were thinking of people to come speak to, for you students and families, we thought, well, Susie's art, it appeals to all ages, but also on top of that, she's someone that does what she loves, and she's like made this really unique, amazing, one-of-a-kind career, and we thought that, it would be really interesting for you to meet her. So, hi, Susie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We thought, thank you, but we thought maybe we'd just show some of the students some of your art first before going into questions. Because, maybe they haven't had a chance. It's really hard to go to the library now, right? and you can't really go to stationery stores and stuff like that. So let's see. Let's try to share the screen here again. And I'm sorry, there's just one of us doing this. Usually you'd have like some fancy person behind the scenes. So welcome. Can you see all this? Can everyone see this? Susie, can you see it?
I can see it. I think some of these pictures
Okay.
are kind of old, but I can see them.
Really? How old is this one, for example?
Oh, for the artwork, it's harder to tell. It's funny, the years kind of blurred together for the artwork. It's more the life pictures that feel old.
Well, we knew it was you. Yeah, so, if you just look at this immediately, you know that Susie, she loves nature. She loves bright colors. Um, and she loves like cool antique frames.
This had a really specific purpose when I worked on this. I do a lot of illustration for companies also, and this was for a company called Ancestry, where people can sort of track down the histories of their families. So the antique picture frames, I'm glad you picked up on that. That's sort of a reference to family histories.
What can I say? And look at these pictures. Bulletins at the Silver Lake Lounge.
Eloise,
pretty
you're tiny there at the bottom right.
Oh yeah. That picture was taken, you just happened to be in town at your brother's house when he was living nearby. We went to this was it Antigua? This really good coffee place, I think, in Highland Park. And we were like, hey, maybe Susie, we're doing this stuff for the school, and we need a poster. And like you just drew it freehand, and Eloise helped, and that was the coolest thing. I love that you help our school and you help our Save Music in Chinatown concerts. And here you are talking once again. So for us, thank you. Here's some more art. What's that book tower all about?
That was for, I illustrated it for a magazine created by Purdue, this school, about how children use technology to learn and how it enhances the way that they learn and absorb information and then share it. And then at the bottom right there, that original of that painting's right here. Can you see it?
Whoa.
It's pretty tiny.
Yeah, that's it.
I love it. It's so bright. Those colors are like, it's a nighttime painting, I feel. But then the way it's lit is crazy. It's like a black light painting. It's so cool. What's the top right one?
I just did that for fun, I think. I just did a dance party with a cat. Who hasn't had one of those?
Especially in COVID times.
Yes.
And children learning with technology is very appropriate right now.
We are all adapting to technology and learning with it too. So.
Yeah, I love that your art is so organic and has that hand-drawn quality, but it's, here you are talking about we all have to adapt. You can't not be on Zoom. Even the hardest core Luddite cannot.
Technology's been really central to me having a life in the arts at all, being a professional artist. So it's never been independent of it. Even though everything I make is by hand, technology's been, it's always been important to be connected.
I love that. Is it a gopher or a groundhog on the top right?
It's a groundhog.
I like the glasses. Those are so good. That's such a great touch.
I used this was for an article about Groundhog Day. It was like a really funny article, and I used the face of the author and tried to inspire the look of my groundhog based on his actual photos. It's his glasses.
I'm not sure, like, because of the way our screen is, like, your window's on top of the groundhog, so I can't tell if it's reading a newspaper or playing a Game Boy or getting. Oh yeah, here's the poster we were talking about. Yeah, and so some of you students, you older students, might have actually seen them on the brick wall outside school. So Susie has shown at galleries across the world, and she's also shown on the brick wall outside Castelar. In Chinese, Spanish, and English. Oh, books. That's the newest one on the top right, correct?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
Little Muir's Night and She Wanted to Be Haunted both just came out in the last month.
Wow, you're on a roll. And then some of them you've written as well, like Stack the Cats and Balance the Birds, right?
Yep.
That is so cool. We got to
I
talk
don't know
more
if these
about
one-word answers are helpful at this point, but when you want more, tell me more. Tell me you want
it's
more.
okay. You have the art speaking for you, so you should just give it space. That's totally cool. And then we have some goodies here. So maybe some of you students out there asking questions, we're gonna pick stuff from her store for you. So maybe you'll get an enamel pen or a card set. This is a great time to have pen pals out there, right? During COVID. I've always been writing a lot of letters. So
I have too.
yeah. Okay, so let's get on with the Q&A. Can you do the stop share for me, Eloise?
Well, I just wanted to thank you all too for having me here to talk about art. I feel that a lot of times people see art, or maybe they might follow a TikTok account or an Instagram account of an artist, but it's really nice to get to be in conversation for me as well. I don't get to talk to people too much about what I do. So yeah, I'm thrilled to be here.
Okay, so let's dig in here. We're gonna start grilling you and just get all
I'm
the
ready.
secrets from you. So Eloise,
Can you tell us about your new book? How did you and the author get together for this project?
That's a really good question, and one I get asked a lot by adults usually. So it's cool that you're thinking about it too. So the publisher of that book is one that I've worked with before on very different types of books. That same publisher did a picture book I worked on called What Will Grow, and another one called What Will Hatch. This author had sold their story to the publisher, and the publisher, the way that it usually works in children's publishing, they'll have the story, but they don't know about the artwork yet, what the artwork's going to be. So they started looking to see and talking around the offices to see who they thought would be a good match for the artist. I've never done a book like this before. It's definitely very character oriented. It's really weird. It's super funny, which I don't know how they knew that was going to appeal to me, but they sent it to me and asked if I would be interested in illustrating it. And I would say about half the time that I get emails like that from publishers, the answer is half the time it would be no, because sometimes it's just not a fit. I don't know what I would do for it, or it's not. It doesn't sound like it would be the right type of challenge, or I'm just too busy or something like that. But in this case, I was very excited about it because I used to live in a pink house, just like the house that's the main character. When I lived on the East Coast in Rhode Island, I lived in a pink house that looked a lot like that. And it was a pretty weird house. So I felt like I could pay tribute to this part of my life through this book.
Actually, Kai, a second grader in Young Lao Shu's class, wants to know, do you like to be haunted? Because I see you have a book called She Wanted to Be Haunted.
I think that's an interesting question. I don't think I necessarily would want to be haunted myself, but I've certainly had some strange experiences, and they've made my life more entertaining for it. So I think in this case, the house wants to be haunted, not me personally, but you can't help it if a ghost wants to say hi.
Another student, Blake, asks, how long does it take to draw one book?
I would love to see what everyone's guesses are. Is it possible to do something like that? How about in chat? If chat is open to everybody, I would love to see how long you think it takes to make a picture book, and then I'll tell you how long. So maybe we can give it just
open it up, the panelists and attendees too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm based on some of the messages I get by email sometimes, where people might send me a book idea, it tells me that people don't know how long it takes. So I love that you asked this question, and I can't wait to see how long you think it takes.
I think if you're a publisher, you think it's a month or two. If you're an artist, more like a year.
So as a magazine publisher, you're guessing 1 month. And I don't see anything in chat yet. If anybody, I don't know.
Here we go.
As a guess, okay.
Celine says, I think it takes half an hour or an hour.
Yeah.
Principal Lou says 6 months.
7 hours.
Josh says 7 hours.
To make a book? Wow. Maybe Sergio Aragonés, the guy who does the Mad Marginals, could do it in 7 hours.
Jocelyn says 2 weeks.
That's 2 weeks with a lot of coffee and no sleep.
Elizabeth Wen says 10,000 hours.
That's pretty good, huh?
Okay, so who's the closest here?
The closest
6
is
weeks.
the closest
Kyle
would be the. Well, let's see.
Kyle says 1 day.
I'd have to do some quick calculations, but I think the 10,000 hours one is the closest. It takes me 2 years to make each book that I work on. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One is that most of it is done in pencil. So just like you would draw at home with pencil and paper, the majority of work on a book has to do with coming up with ideas just in pencil on paper and having a conversation about whether it's communicating what it's supposed to be communicating. So sometimes, like, for example, on this book, Balance the Birds, that I illustrated and wrote, there were over 100 drafts of that book before we finally settled on the final idea. And then working on the actual final artwork, the final painted artwork, was probably another 6 or 8 months after all the pencil phases and everything. And that book took 2 years. They look really simple. Picture books always do. That's how they communicate to children of all ages, is because people think about how they can get to the simplest form of every idea, but that takes so much time to get to that place. So yeah, 2 years.
Okay, let's so look at these. We pulled these off our shelf. Do you remember these?
That was the first painting I ever sold at Giant Robot, the one with the cat.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So now you know where it is. Both of them.
I knew where it was. And that was always a really exciting connection to share with you guys.
So we met you at art shows. And is that how you started making like physical art for art shows? Was that your original career path?
I've never been a only one path kind of person. I don't know if anyone else is like that too. Like maybe you like to play piano, but then you also really like reading. I'm kind of like that. Like I like to do a lot of different things, and to switch around with them. So I studied illustration in college. So I was already doing illustrations for magazines, but I paint everything. So doing art shows has kind of been natural. Also, I had art shows from when I was a student, from when I was younger, also participated in some contests and art shows and things like that. And then making products is kind of my third thing that I do. So yeah, between illustration, art shows, and making products, I like doing those three things and switch off between doing all three all the time.
Let's go to this one.
Was it a difficult decision to go to an art school? Was your family supportive?
That's such a good question. It wasn't an easy decision because I wasn't completely sure that it would work out for me. You know, it's a really and my parents are very practical. I'm a first generation American, and they wanted me to study something that would have a lot of job opportunities, and that may not have been artwork. So it was a bit of a risk when I went to art school. I also went to public school growing up, and the arts program is not central to the experience. So I didn't know what it would be like to study art all the time, and it ended up being just the best. I often reflect on it as being the best decision I ever made, in terms of my, not relationships, but in terms of like life choices that, you know, you pick something like that. So and my family ended up being, you know, they were very, very supportive. And I think even when they're cautious, that there is a supportive element of that as well. When they're you know, when they're worried about me, that's also supportive in its own way.
So, you know, Wendy went to art school too. What was it like for you, Wendy? Was it an easy decision for you as well? And what did your family think? As another, you know, immigrant family going to art school.
I wouldn't say they were 100% supportive, but I went when I was a little bit older, so I think by then they were like, okay, let's just see what she does. And but I think as time went on, they saw how hard I worked, and met some of my friends from art school, and realized that there was a career path that you could take, and that it was just like any other career where, you know, where you have to dedicate yourself, you have to work hard. And I think also my parents also just wanted me to be happy, in the career that I chose.
Yeah, I think kind of like the picture book thing that we were just talking about the amount of time it takes. School is like that no matter what you study too. You put in a lot of hours into learning. And so if you can really dedicate yourself to it, I mean, just like any subject, there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to adapt to. So yeah, you really have to have some perseverance, I think. Yeah.
So, okay, since we have two art school graduates here, Joan from Ms. Yang's class asked, how do you draw people sitting down?
Okay, it's not a great example, honestly. But I actually studied realistic painting when I was in school, and we just did a lot of studying of models. And I don't know, Joan, did you say how old you were? I think that this answer changes a little bit depending on how whether or not you have access to life drawing from real people. Although you can always do it in your sketchbook with strangers even. But the basic trick is that don't think you know anything. Just look at things as they are and try to draw what you see, not what you think you see. And if that doesn't make sense, then it just kind of means like, if you see someone's leg at a certain angle, draw that angle. Don't draw what you think a leg looks like.
Actually, it wasn't fair to ask Wendy that question because she studied design in art school, so I'm not going to ask her how to draw.
Well,
people.
Wendy, was that the case for me? I had to learn, even if I wasn't going to use a skill like ceramics, I had to learn and study ceramics in school. Did you have to do drawing in school as well?
Yeah. So we had to do a life drawing class. We had to do a product design class. So yeah, we had to take it in a basics of photography class. So we did have to do all the disciplines, which I think was super helpful, especially then you can see, I mean, you get a view of what all the other disciplines are, because when you get out of school, those are all the people you're going to be working with, people in different disciplines, right? You're going to be, collaborating with, like, I'm a designer, so I would collaborate with illustrators or product designers or photographers, so editors, yes. So you realize that it's not just all about your one major or your focus.
Yeah, and I think no matter what you study in school, you're going to learn things that may interest you less than other things, or you'll have to learn foundational skills no matter what. If you go into art, it's the same. There's foundational skills to learn just as there would be if you're studying literature or something. So, or science, there's just base skills that you would have to learn, whether or not they appeal to you.
Yes, and also I think because then it gives you an appreciation for someone in another discipline. So
yeah.
then and it also sharpens your eye into to see like what would be the appropriate type of, I don't know, photographer or illustrator for this one project. So you'll know who to ask and who to approach.
Yeah, so in summary of that question, when someone asks how you draw someone that's seated, ask someone to sit in the chair for you and draw exactly every angle that you see and not what you think you see.
Sounds good. Oh, so you teach also now, right? At art school?
Yes, I've taught a few times. I'm not teaching currently because I've been busy working on other things, but when I can, I've taught at both the school that I went to and then UCSD here in San Diego also.
Okay.
I've taught.
So I'm wondering, what were you like as an art student? And now that you're an art teacher, what would you tell yourself as an art student?
Oh no, this is a very philosophical question that involves looking in the mirror and asking yourself what your real problems are. As a student, I think I was I think I was a bigger risk taker, honestly. I think when you're younger, that's a real asset of being younger, is you don't know what's possible, so you're willing to try everything. And I think that's really that's great, and you should try everything. I think that's how you learn who you are. So that's who I was as a student, and as a teacher, I would tell myself not to worry so much. I think I've probably carried on some of my family's worries about how to make a career happen, and it things just kind of in many cases have worked out. But honestly, I have to tell adult me the same thing. I'm just a worrying person.
Hey, did you see the shirts that Eloise and Wendy are wearing?
Oh, no, I didn't see. I made that
And
shirt.
then
Oh, you
here's
guys are
another
the best.
one. This one.
Oh, wow. You have a
Oh,
whole
wait, there's more.
collection.
There's more.
That one's my favorite one. The
So we're
bison one.
wondering,
Can you tell us about expanding from taking part in art shows to making stuff like buttons, jewelry, shirts, and stationery?
Yes. So that came first for me. When I was 7 years old, I started doing a craft show every summer in the Midwest where I grew up. I used to make jewelry and I would make cards and I would sell it at these craft shows. And that was my first experience as, an artist in some kind of way. I wasn't doing art shows at that age, although everyone in kindergarten has, might paint something and hang it up. But yeah, doing the craft shows was my first experience. So I've always loved making products and making things and being kind of crafty. I also used to play music and I would make merchandise for my bands. So that also was a way of using my artwork to make products before I did art shows or anything like that. Art shows were probably the last thing to happen for me because it was the scariest for me. I love going to museums and to galleries and looking at artwork, seeing what other people have the big ideas that other people have come up with. And I was very intimidated to begin doing that. So that was actually the last stage of these three things that I took on, the last thing that I added to what I do.
yeah, I feel like for an artist, right, or people out there, most people don't buy a lot of art, but they need T-shirts, and they'll wear a button or jewelry and stuff, right? So they can support artists that way. And I think one of the cool things about where I used to work is that it kind of helped independent artists like have an outlet, right?
Yeah, I think the role of artwork is kind of like the role of stories. Like we enjoy artwork and we enjoy stories that help us feel like it expresses who we are a little bit. And I think products are sort of a way for people to bring home a little bit of that expression of who they are. So yeah, and Giant Robot was is still such a great way that people can connect with that little piece of themselves that they didn't know was there once they see it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I think it's all the point of making anything. The point of music, the point of art, the point of writing is to connect with each other, I think. And so yeah, if you can make something that helps someone else feel connected, then you share the idea together.
You mentioned being a kindergartner and making stuff. So one student, Sydney, asked what your favorite subject was in school.
Oh, that's good. Because art wasn't really a subject when I was in school. That was sort of like a thing that I did. We would have like a once a month program or like an after school thing or something like that. So in school, it wasn't always an option for a subject, but I always liked to draw. Like if that was a subject, that would probably be my favorite. So my favorite was probably anything that involved like reading stories. That was probably my favorite of the full subjects that we had. It wasn't what I was best at. It's probably what I was worst at. But I used to love any sort of reading oriented classes.
Storytelling, even then.
Yeah. But it wasn't what I was best at. I had a knack for math, weirdly. And I grew up my whole life with people telling me I was going to be a scientist, and I knew otherwise.
Who knew you'd need math later on, actually, as selling your stuff? And
I use it all the time. It's my most used skill.
You do so many different things. Your schedule must change all the time. Can you tell us about what this week was like?
Oh, jeez. Like all of you, I don't know if you all have this experience too. Let me see. If you have the ability to raise your hand, I would love to see if you know what day it is. If you knew what day it was when you woke up today, if you can raise your hand in the, I don't know if I can, oh, I see 2 people knew what day it was when they woke up today. It's very confusing right now because, I am proud of all of you 4 or 5 people who knew what day it was when you woke up today.
You know why they know? It's the day before a long weekend. That's why they know. They've been looking forward to this day all week.
is tomorrow not Friday? Is tomorrow,
Or,
yeah, tomorrow off?
or,
I think I think there may still be some confusion about what day it is.
or
But
LAUSD, Friday off.
uh, but how did you phrase the question again, Eloise, or whoever asked the question?
She was just saying how like your week is so crazy and it's so different every time. So give an example of what like this week was like.
Well, last night I went camping. So in the middle of the week, I got back early this morning. We left camping early in the morning so that I could come back for my first appointment of the day because I had a lot of meetings. I had 4 hours of meetings on Zoom today, plus all my deadlines today. So right now I'm trying to balance not feeling like every day is exactly the same. So I try to invent little ways to get outside, like having a picnic dinner or something like that. But other than that, my week's been really full of deadlines, planning for events. Next week I have a book release party. I'm doing an event with a museum, so I've been in communication with them a lot. Yesterday, before I went camping, I recorded for 2 hours. I was trying to read She Wanted to Be Haunted and get one good take on video because it's full of a lot of tongue twisters. It's a little bit challenging to read aloud without slipping on something. So I made 2 paintings. I shipped off 8 of them for an art show this week. That's some of what I've had going on, but I've done some boring things too. Like today I spent 2 hours trying to update shipping costs because the postal service is changing their costs. This is just like, it's a mix of stuff going on in my week.
I think this is really interesting because most people think, oh, you're an artist, so you just stay home and draw by yourself all the time. And, people are really struggling by being home all the time and working by themselves. But in fact, even when you are at home painting by yourself, you're still like talking to a lot of people and you have this whole community of design week or museums or book fairs. And can you
And
talk about
friends.
talk about being part of these communities, even though you're at home working by yourself,
Yeah, it's become, I think, really important to find new ways to connect with other people creatively, especially during this time because it can be kind of tough. Every Tuesday, I get on Zoom with a friend of mine who's also an illustrator, and we both work on our artwork side by side, and we might ask each other questions or just catch up on life. But that's a really important time where we can just kind of do our work, but still kind of be together the way that we might be if we were in person. I have a few groups like that too, that we get together and kind of focus on our work. Yesterday, I had a critique group. That means it's you bring story ideas that you're working on, and oh, I just heard a weird echo. Oh, there it is again. Are you all hearing that too?
No.
I think I can hear the audio from your computer, or somebody's computer maybe. So maybe my computer. At the critique group, it's really important sometimes to share your creative ideas when you're still working on them and hear if other people are seeing what you're trying to get across. And then maybe you'll get feedback from a friend who says, I think this part's a little confusing, or I really like this. Do you think you can do more with this? So yesterday I had 2 hours of critique group before we went camping also. It's been pretty full. My days are really long.
Okay.
And connecting with community too, you were asking about that. That sort of seems like, it's important to stay connected with family and with friends, but when you can stay connected with community around what you're passionate about too, it has made, for me personally, it's made this time a lot easier, I think, just to feel that those things are still happening, that we're still being creative together and we're still in conversation together about things that matter to us, like this.
Julian asks, at first was drawing really hard? Is drawing still really hard?
Drawing is so hard. It's still really hard. I have days where everything I'm drawing just looks really bad. I think the difference as I get older is that I'm okay with when it's bad. When I was younger, I used to feel like it was something to be ashamed about if something wasn't bad, but nothing's ever good all the time. So yeah, drawing was hard when I was a kid. Certain things come easy, like if you knew how to draw one thing in particular, and you could draw that thing over and over and over again, it would kind of look similar, the same, you know, it's good to have those things because you kind of know, okay, I can draw this one thing really, really well, and it can help you through the times when it's not as easy, or when you're still learning how to draw other things or take on new challenges. But I like challenging myself. I like to try drawing different things all the time, and still try to learn a lot. I go to a lot of classes too, because I still like learning from other people also.
That's funny. You mentioned drawing things you're good at. Kai asks, do you like cats? Since I see there are a lot of cats in your art.
So I love cats. I love animals of all kinds. Right next to me, I have 3 little finches. They're like little birds. I just love animals and nature all around. But I find that with my artwork, when I'm making it just for myself or just for fun, a lot of times the things that are in my environment make their way into my artwork. So I have a cat, so she'll make her way into my artwork because I can kind of look at her and then get an idea of how she might be involved in whatever I'm making. It will happen if even I just saw a movie or something, and a certain like character or something is in my not quite character, but let's say I saw a movie and someone's flying a kite. Maybe in my next painting, I might incorporate kite flying into it or somehow, because it's in my mind already and it's something that I liked when I saw it. Not drawing exactly what happened in the movie, but maybe bringing the motif to my artwork. So I see my cat every day, and she makes it into my artwork quite a bit. I see neighbors' cats too. Like we have a lot of outdoor cats.
So, Eloise, do you want to ask this one?
Do you listen to music when you draw?
I do. Not always, because sometimes when I'm really, really focused, sometimes I can't listen to anything, and I have to just be with my thoughts or whatever. Lately, I've been listening to continuous music through this website called Brain FM. It's really good music to study to or to read to also, but it's sort of meant to be make you lose track of time. That's the idea. It's kind of one continuous song. So, but yeah, I have a really big record collection, and I love music, and yeah, I listen to music a lot. I listen to audiobooks also, though. Sometimes I just listen to television shows. I won't watch them, but I'll listen to them as I'm working too. Pretty much anything that keeps me in my chair, because that's another funny thing about being an artist, is sometimes you just don't feel like it. I don't know if you all have this experience too. Sometimes you just don't feel like drawing, but as an artist, sometimes you have to do it anyway, and you feel good once you stay seated and keep working on it. So I try to create little tricks to keep myself working at it, whether or not I feel like it.
Hey, I know. So there was that picture of you playing with bulletins. Are you still making music? Like, tell me what are you doing these days? You've been in a ton of bands. You gave me a list once.
I have been in a lot of bands. I haven't been making music too much lately, honestly. My husband is also a musician, and he is really making a lot of music right now. That's part of how he's been connecting to his creative self during this time. So I kind of am letting him have the area where all the instruments are, and I sing a lot of karaoke at home though. We open it up on YouTube, and we have microphones, and we sing at home.
You know, I don't think Eloise has ever gone to karaoke with me and you before, huh?
Oh, Eloise, it's a rite of passage. Can't wait to take you.
She's really good. She's
I bet.
We have to do that when things are over. We'll do that. Let's see. And for you students out there or families, we took Eloise to karaoke when she was really young. And the idea is that you have to read really fast on the song, so it's good for your reading. So it's educational when you're learning how to read.
It can be good too if you just know a song by heart.
Yeah,
we often end up singing songs from Moana.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, let's see. What's do you have another question here?
Riley wants to know, do you have a favorite book that you have illustrated?
That's a good question. You know, they all have their time to shine, right? They all have times where I feel like this one's my favorite, and it changes a bit. But probably the first one I wrote in Illustrator, because I didn't quite know exactly how it was going to come together. And so the process of illustrating it, and it was a really weird art making process too. You can't tell, but it's this book here, Stack the Cats. I designed it like how I would a t-shirt, where each color was its own illustration, and they get sandwiched together to create the artwork. So it wasn't like I made one image and then it got printed. It was, every page is 4 different images. And the process of illustrating that was really complicated and really a really fun experiment. So I think I enjoyed working on that one the most. And when I look at it, I still remember the process. So I really, I think because these books take up so much of my life, you know, there's 2 years on each one usually, I think about the time spent on it, and that ends up being why I might remember something a little, you know, why something might be my favorite in that moment.
So it sounds like even though art is your job, it's still fun. Drawing is still fun for you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I feel very, very lucky to get to be an artist and to get to, especially sharing when I share my books, especially with kids, it's a reward I didn't think I was ever gonna, you know, I didn't even know that that was possible to have that kind of reward. Like, to see other people's reactions to what my artwork might be saying or showing them is really fun. It's really, really fun. And you know, there are days just like anything else that we care about that it might be you know, frustrating. Like if anyone plays an instrument, it can be tough to work through the times that you're just not getting it, or you just don't know where you're going with it. But it is a really, really rewarding career. I love being an artist, and I think I work really hard at it because I love it. It's not easy.
Do you have advice for kids who want to get into art?
Oh, well, you're already in art. If you're a kid, I feel the point is to not lose it, right? I think you don't have to do anything to try to get into it. You're already into it. You just need to just not, don't let go of it. Kids are born, so, you know, you're the most creative people in the world. You know, the rest of us are just aspiring to be like you know, a fraction of how creative you naturally are.
There was one question that I saw that was pretty random. Vicky wants to know how many origami you can do in a day.
Oh, I used to be so good at it when I was younger, but I have lost my skills. All I can make now is like a fortune teller, or cootie catcher as they call them. But I used to be really good at it. I used to make these frogs that when you press down on the folds on its back legs, it would jump. And do you know, I see you nodding, Eloise. Have you made this before? I don't know. But
Yes.
yeah, I don't know how many I can make in a day now, but I used to endlessly make them when I was younger. You're very perceptive.
I think I made those in about 5th or 6th grade when we read The Jumping Frog of Calaveras County. We had a jumping frog contest where we all made
Cool.
origami and like, went across the classroom with them.
The secret that I discovered was that the smaller you make them, the higher, you know, they can jump really far when they're smaller.
So there's another question from my classmate Avaleni. What do you do when you want to draw something, but you have no idea what to draw?
I love this question because this is actually one of my favorite dilemmas. When I don't know what to draw, I go into this mode of being open to options, and you know, and not always, you know, sometimes I have things that I like to draw, or I already knew I wanted to draw, but when I don't know what I want to draw, I go research. I start looking at archives. Like I'll look at the Library of Congress's website where images are in the public domain, which basically means you can use them, because you don't want to, you know, I can't use, as a professional artist, other people's photos without, you know, asking their permission or something like that. It's a longer conversation. But I basically start researching different subjects and kind of try to find my next ideas. Like even during this time, you know, staying at home, it's been a really, really great time for finding new things that I'm interested in drawing. Like I ended up going to an online lecture at our Natural History Museum, where someone was talking about how on the Channel Islands, just off the coast of Santa Barbara, there are foxes that live on the islands that only live on those islands. I never knew it. I started researching these foxes, started painting these foxes. It would never have been, I wouldn't have woken up and said, I'm going to draw foxes today. I had to be open. I had to not have the idea I was already working on, and then be open to new ideas and getting inspired. So when I don't know what I'm going to draw, I just stay open to possibilities, and I listen to other people and just look around and see what seems interesting to me in the world.
How about this?
What else do you do when you're not drawing?
I feel like I'm drawing all the time. I read a lot. I read a ton. It's like my favorite thing to do. So I read. Right now I've been gardening a lot. We have a lot of bonfires in our backyard in a little fire pit. I like to go be outside, so we go hiking. We'll go swimming. I like to be a person in the world. I don't know. Right now it's tough because you can't be in the world too much, but I like to be outside. And I also love tea. It's kind of a cultural thing for me, I think, too. But a lot of times when I'm between things, that's like the moment I look forward to, is when I can sit down and have some tea.
What type of tea do you drink? We're curious.
Well, Persian tea has cardamom in it. That's kind of the tea that I grew up with. But I love most now any kind of Earl Grey. It's flavored with bergamot, which is a kind of citrus.
I think someone had a question, was it Daisy, asking about like your roots, if you ever draw stuff. So I know you drink Persian tea. Do you ever draw Persian stuff, like legend?
I've never been to Iran, so I don't draw Persian stuff too much. I just have the kind of hybrid of cultures I grew up with. But I paint really tiny, and that's kind of a cultural thing for me. I don't know if anybody else here is Persian, but Persian miniatures are really big in the culture, and I feel that that's probably why, here, for example, historically miniatures would be painted with a cat whisker, but I use this tiny, you can't even really see the tip. It's like tiny little brush. This is often what I paint with. All my brushes, a lot of them are really, really small. That's sort of I feel that's when I feel connected to art making in my culture. The smaller I get.
Have you ever seen the micro miniatures at the Museum of Jurassic Technology?
Yes, I love the Museum of Jurassic Technology.
I have a needle.
I love them. Yeah, they have the tiny sculptures too, and the eye of the needle, and yeah, it's that place is awesome.
I know, I miss going places like that. Okay, it's almost 6, so we have to get through the last question or two here.
I see a couple in chat as well.
Is there anything you like in there? You can go for it. We don't have to filter them for you if there's anything that you love.
Let's see. Jacob asked a question early on. What is my favorite drawing of my own? I don't have a favorite drawing of my own necessarily. It changes because sometimes I'll make something and then a few years will pass by and I don't think it's that good anymore after some time. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience, but I really love the artwork of Beatrix Potter. She wrote the Peter Rabbit stories. I really love the artist Edward Gorey. So when I look back at other people's drawings, sometimes I have favorites among those. But not really among my own.
Who are some other artists you like? I'm curious.
I'm sorry?
Gore and Beatrix Potter are awesome. Who else do you like?
Who else do I like of artists? Let's see. Of my I like there's a lot of painters that I love. Like when I go to different art museums, I love to see how different people use paint. The kind of classic artists like Van Gogh or Monet were always, I always loved seeing how what they painted didn't quite look like anything you could see in life. They had their own lens that you would look through to see it. But there's so many things there's so many artists I love. I love comics also. So there's all different genres of art that I like.
That's cool though, right? Because if they all look the same, you may as well take a picture. But then if you see it and it's through that lens, it's that artist and that style, and that's the most awesome thing. Like instantly, I look at the art and I know it's Susie. I know it,
I also really love some people that can capture life as it is in their artwork. I really do. I really appreciate a broad range of skills that people can bring to their artwork. But I have a simple idea about what creativity is, which is that you have an idea, like I'm going to draw a portrait of Eloise. And then every time you add a new idea to it, it gets more creative. So like I'm going to draw a portrait of Eloise only using the color orange. That might be another idea. It's going to be as big as my wall. It's like another idea you might be adding to it. Every mark that I use is going to be an X. The whole paint, whole portrait will be made up of little X's, another idea. And the more ideas that you're adding to it, kind of the more creative it's becoming. So I think of that when I look at other artists that I like, how many of those decisions were involved, how many times they had to think about the choice that they were making. That's something that I always like to think about when I look at other people's artwork.
There was a question in the Q&A about you drawing comics. You mentioned that you do like reading comics. Have you ever drawn one?
I see that. Yeah. So have I ever considered making a comic book? That's asked by, I think it's Amida. I studied making comics in college. It's very challenging to do storytelling in that way because it's very work intensive. It's like working on an animation where each frame says something different. So it's I love doing it. I used to make comics quite a bit, but they were like zine comics that I could just photocopy and share. And I used to go to a lot of comic oriented events. I'm still friends with people that I met at them. And actually, it's how I connected with Giant Robot to begin with. I was in college, I was 19 years old, and I went to San Diego Comic-Con and met Giant Robot there and then.
We were children then. I can't believe it. We were their age.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. Okay, let's ask one more question because it's almost 6 and people need to eat dinner and stuff. And I think you kind of addressed this earlier, just on being creative and making things more creative. Can you just talk to people about being creative in this really weird time as a way to survive and get through it, and make the most of it?
Yeah, I think that's something that's really helped me through this, and it could help anybody, I think. I think a really good practice, if you're having a hard time at all during this time, and it would be normal to have a hard time right now because there's so much that's changed about our world so quickly. I find that for me, if I can be creative first thing in the morning before I start thinking about, other things I have to do or other things that might make me anxious or stressed or something like that, I find my day goes better. So even though I'm known for drawing, the first thing I do every morning is write in my journal. I write 3 pages in my journal every single morning, whether I'm awake or not. So, and it really does help, I think, just to be a bit expressive in some way. Drawing for me, it's related to my work, so it's not always not stressful for me. It doesn't always come super easily to me, but I carry a sketchbook with me through the day, and if I have a minute where I can just sit down and just ground myself in the world that's right in front of me, draw like my cup of tea or something like that, draw my cat sitting next to me, just take a few minutes to look at what I see around me and draw that, it brings me down to the home that I'm in. And I think that could really be a helpful practice for anybody. And I think starting your day with drawing a little bit or writing a little bit or singing a song or dancing a little or expressing yourself in some kind of way can only get your day started on the right foot, I think. Even if it means you have to wake up 5 minutes earlier.
Oh, 5 minutes. I could have had 5 minutes more sleep.
But okay. It is a tough time, and creativity helps us a lot, I think, to remember where we are and who we are. Because I think the times when things feel hardest is when we kind of forget that stuff. When we forget that we're safe in our homes and safe with our families, or, safe with our art materials.
Wow, thank you so much for your time. I think, sometimes we look at cool books or shirts or art on the wall and we don't think about the person that made it. Like you just assume, oh, there's a cool book or there's whatever, but there's someone that made it out there. And there's nothing stopping any of you out there, any of you students or parents, teachers, principals, from doing stuff, drawing, writing, humming, whatever, right? You can, that should be you, and that should be all of us making stuff and creating and adding to culture, right? Not just ordering it on Netflix.
And
So
sharing it with each other. Like,
yeah.
you know, I use TikTok a lot. I think I mentioned that already. If
What?
anybody else uses it or likes to share their creativity online, I love being tagged and stuff. I love to see what other people are making too. And it's kind of, yeah, that's how we build community too, is by sharing with each other.
I had no idea about your secret life on TikTok. I don't
I
even
love
have
it.
it. No, no, I'm gonna get it just so I can follow you.
I love TikTok.
I
It's
don't
the
know.
best.
No, we didn't. Sydney Wong.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm remembering. I can't believe I forgot this. I have a couple of the original paintings of my books I wanted to show you guys.
Ooh.
If you would like to see what they look like when they're not in a book.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Sorry, I don't mean to extend this, but I'm answering Elizabeth's question here about technology, and it's reminding me to show you. So let's see. Here's an example of, remember I was talking about how different ideas might get drawn in pencil. There'll be lots of drafts in pencil. So here's like character design that I worked on in pencil. And I have a lot of like huge stacks of tissue paper like that I've drawn on to come up with character designs or illustrations like that. And then here I have paintings here. This is how my paintings end up looking before I scan them. So scanning is how I digitize them. So the edges will be really raw like this, and then they get cropped when I scan them. So I'm not quite sure how I'll end up framing it. So here's an example of one of the paintings. And then here is how it looks once it's in the book. So it's smaller in the book. It looks just a little bit different color-wise. I'm holding this painting at a weird angle, so it looks like it's distorted, but that one didn't shift too much, but I want to share if I have, there's a painting here I want to look for real quick because it has a cool art technique that anybody can do at home. So this is the last painting in that
Whoa.
same book, and it shows like a very starry sky because this is a book I made for Yosemite National Park. And that's one of the places that you can truly see dark sky. So I don't know if you can see all the little dots here that represent the galaxy overhead, but the way I made that was with a toothbrush. I dipped it in white paint and like really thick paint. You don't want to add too much water. And then I just run my fingers along the bristles and it sprayed the paint across the page. So you can kind of see where it went over here, but that's how that effect was achieved, was with a toothbrush. Not one that you will ever use for your teeth again. It can only be for this purpose. Only for painting. It's a painting toothbrush, not a toothbrush.
That's funny. I spray toothpaste on our mirror the same way.
Yes, a lot of people do. It's a good art making technique. And then for She Wanted to Be Haunted, I made all the artwork on black boards. So like it's, even when I was drawing before I started painting, I used chalk to draw the outlines, just white chalk like you would use on the sidewalk. And then I painted over it, and you can still see some of the black through the background. And that's because this book is like, you know, a little bit Halloween themed. And I thought it might be nice if it had the darker color coming through it, just like, you know, Halloween is very dark night oriented. So yeah, my art making process is different for every book. Some books I paint entirely on wood. I do different materials and different choices for each book. Sorry to add that in at the end, but I just remembered that I had pulled that stuff specifically to share with you.
No, thanks so much. You're so awesome, and we just love that the students that came stuck it out to the end. Like
Yeah, almost
it's really
everybody.
amazing.
Yeah,
So thank you
cool.
so much for that. And I just want to say, you know, everyone, if you enjoyed this today, next week we're going to have another talk with the skateboard video maker, he did pavement videos, Susie, and Rocket from the
Cool.
Crypt. And yeah, Winco, he's done a lot of like famous skateboard videos too with Spike Jonze, Daewon Song, Rodney Mullen, all these people that skaters will be impressed by. And yeah, so filmmaking. So maybe we'll talk about that next week, and you can find the link at the same place where you found the one for Susie, or the website, the Faces Castelar website. And if you want, and this is just for the parents out there, no pressure, but we're not able to do our fundraising stuff anymore. You know, we can't have concerts, and we can't have art science night, we can't have math night, we don't get to do talent shows. So, you know, we're gonna have a little Venmo thingy at the end, in case you want to, or PayPal, sorry, in case you want to contribute to the music program. That would be cool. And just have a good long weekend. And thanks everyone. I wish we could see you in person and do these in person, but we're really glad that Susie can join us virtually from San Diego. And that Principal Lou would not only introduce, but stick around to the end. How cool is she? And thank you for the "We Love You" sign, Noelle. It makes everyone happy. So I think we're going to end it here. Have a good night, everybody. Let's see.
Thank you, everyone.
Is it here?
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you. Chat about art.
Sunlight comes streaming in through my window. Green leaves all dance in the breeze. But I'm just